Hey everybody, it's Tuesday, time for another movie review.
I'm gonna try to get in the video.
Yeah, you're in the neighbors video.
Yeah. How the fuck does that shit happen?
I don't know. You're always going in the neighbors video. I don't know why you're doing that. Invading their shit. They're like, hey, who are you, motherfucker?
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
This was a good movie.
I had forgotten, because here's the thing. I probably saw this in the late 80s, because back then, this came out in 1982. And it was like a big, like, cult classic midnight movie type of thing. Like, and I was real into, like, in high school, I was real into, like, all this like indie movies and stuff like that. So me and my friends watched a bunch of these. And I remember really, really liking it back in the day, but I hadn't seen it since then. I don't think I saw it since I was in high school, which was a long time ago. Okay, it was like the late 1980s. So I saw that it was on HBO Max, and then I thought of it again because we just did Night of the Comet not too long ago, and that had Robert Beltran in it, also had Mary Woronov in it, and also had Paul Bartel in it, all three of whom are also in this movie. So I was like, oh, we should totally do that movie. So I put it in the poll, I think last week, but it didn't win. But then I put it in again, and it won this time. So I was like, really, and watching it again last night, I was like, oh my God, I forgot how much I fucking love this movie. I love this movie. This movie is hilarious.
Jenny suggested it because we did Night of the Comet. That also had Robert Beltran in it.
Yeah.
And he's the guy who played Chakotay from Star Trek Voyager. Which that was the only thing I knew him from. I thought he was great on Voyager, even though I don't really remember that program that much. But I don't remember all the episodes. I had to go back and watch it. But I remember liking it. And when you saw him in his early stuff, what impressed me about him with Night of the Comet is that he's a good actor. I mean, he's got training. I checked his background. He had a lot of good theater training. Mm-hmm. He was from Bakersfield, California. And parents of Mexican immigrants. So he's Chicano. Bakersfield back in those days, I don't know what it's like now, but back in those days that was upper middle class. So he could have, his family got him some damn acting training, but he was good. And in this one, he knocks it out of the park. He does all kinds of funny shit. You can see he does a lot of good comedy in it, and he's got that dashing kind of leading man look to him. I don't know why. I guess he came out a little bit too early to be in the Rat Pack, because he really should have been there with Michael J. Fox and Tom Cruise and everything. He was like at that level. But he's good. He's a good actor and fucking amusing. And I was just impressed with him. I can't believe that I only know him from television. I'm watching him and I'm going, who does this dude remind me of? And he reminded me of basically like Chicano Don Johnson. There's something about the way he acts, his facial expressions or something just reminds me of Don Johnson.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, he's at like that level. You know, he could have played a really good cop role, which, you know, being a Starfleet officer, you know, that's an official. He was really good at that as Chakotay. Yeah. So he could have been he could have been right on Miami Vice, been really good.
I mean, in this movie, it's like a completely different role for him.
Yeah, it's comedy.
He actually, I mean, he actually plays the titular Raoul, but he's actually not like the star of the movie. He actually comes in like a little bit later, but
he shines in it though.
Yeah, I mean,
he makes an impression.
The main three actors in this are just like so great. Mango said Bartel made some great movies. Yeah, Death Race 2000. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that a little bit because Paul Bartel, who sadly passed away back in 2000, but he's kind of like, I feel like he's sort of like an unsung indie movie hero. You know what I mean? He made like so much good shit. He worked with Roger Corman a lot back in the day, and he was actually paid, I think, $5,000 like to direct Death Race 2000, and which of course is a huge cult classic. But the thing about it was that him and Roger Corman, I feel like they were always a little bit at odds because Paul Bartel always wanted to go like darker comedy, and the way that Death Race 2000 came out, I mean, that's obviously like a very dark comedy as well. And I don't think that Roger Corman was all that jazzed at how it went in a more darkly comedic route. I think he wanted it to be a little bit more serious, but, you know, that kind of came out later. But the thing about this movie was that Paul Bartel was like, you know, I had worked for Roger Corman, and he was kind of like not super happy with like the direction I was taking things. And then I had other projects, and with Roger Corman, and they didn't get made. So he's like, I just wanted to make the movie I wanted to make. Because if you didn't know, like Eating Raoul, he actually co-wrote and directed this movie as well. And this was exactly what he wanted to do, like with no restrictions. This was pretty much like a completely independent production. Like he borrowed $300,000 from his parents to make it, pretty much.
Yeah.
And one fact that I learned about this, which I guess is true, I've seen it in multiple times, because this has a Criterion Collection release too, and I think they mentioned it on there. But this movie was made entirely from, I think, what they call short ends. Like when you film a movie with film stock, it's like leftover film stock that was unexposed that they didn't use. And they kind of keep it, and then later on they'll kind of like cadge it together, like to use it, to use it. And this movie was made entirely with that, with short ends, like, spliced together.
Yeah.
So they said that's why the sometimes from scene to scene, like the appearance of it looks a little bit different, because they were all different brands. Like some of it was Kodak and some of it was Fuji and some of it was stuff like that, because they just to save money. I didn't either, to be honest with you. To save money, they just kind of like use that, because I guess that was just shit. It's like, yeah, we're not going to use that. Here, take these little scraps.
The movie is about this couple. They're kind of square. And,
very square.
Yeah, and they go to L.A. and they fall into contact with a bunch of pervy fetish people, and one thing leads to another. They figure out that they could have in a newspaper kind of like a fake dominatrix ad, and get these pervy people and get them to come over and kill them and rob them.
Yeah.
And make a whole bunch of money. I forgot what they needed the money for.
They're a restaurant.
Restaurant, that's right.
That's their big dream, was to open Paul and Mary's Country Kitchen.
Yeah. They hire a handyman to come to set up the damn parlor.
He's supposed to be a locksmith.
But he's just like a contractor. He kind of just does whatever he has to at the time. And that's Raoul.
Well, he's actually a thief.
He's a thief, actually.
The locksmith is
his cover.
That's his cover.
Yeah,
like he comes in and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna install all locks and stuff on you," and then he makes keys of everything, and then he breaks in your shit later.
So he gets involved, and his handsome ass steals the wife, and tries to get the wife to kill the husband, and run off together. And and he wants to live with them. He wants to have a nice house with fucking, what do you call it, red velvet walls and
velvet wallpaper.
Well, red velvet wallpaper.
And it's like, I laughed at that, but then I was kind of like,
with those real good velvet paintings.
I would have red velvet wallpaper. Yeah. No, I wouldn't have black velvet. Well, I don't know. Maybe I would.
Right. But a bunch of shit happens during the movie, and what's funny is that it has the makings and the situations of something like along the lines of a Rob Zombie flick, but the tone is totally different. I could see Rob Zombie taking this idea and doing it his way, and it ended up being like something out of Devil's Rejects, because they're killing innocent people, mercilessly, without any fucking mercy, they're trying to make it look real funny in this movie.
Yeah.
They kind of do that in Rob Zombie movies. The killers think it's funny, but you as an observer don't think it's funny.
Don't think it's funny.
That's the difference.
In this one, it's
think it's funny too.
It's absolutely hilarious.
Which is kind of showing you how degenerate you are. They're calling these victims degenerate, so let's kill them. No, you're degenerate for doing this shit.
No, at least as I read it, the whole point of the movie is that they were satirizing, because Paul Bartel and Mary Woronov, they used their real names in this, and that they were actually like best friends. They worked together, I think, in 17 movies, and actually they played these same two characters in Shopping Mall. Like they made a cameo, but they worked together a lot. They were in a lot of. They were both in Night of the Comet too, like in small.
Yeah,
roles.
I was just thinking, seeing this one wanted me to go back, and I wanted to go back and see Night of the Comet again.
Yeah,
that was a good movie.
I know, I like
That's
that
like comfort food movie.
Yeah. Well, it's still on Shudder, as far as I know.
Okay, yeah.
I think.
I wouldn't mind owning that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one was on. I watched this on HBO Max. It might be on like other places too. But the whole point of the movie was that, this was the early '80s. They were Paul and Mary were these real uptight, kind of like '50s throwback sort of. They wore matching pajamas to bed. They slept in separate beds. They were almost like a '50s sitcom.
Yeah.
couple is what they were trying to do. They even slept with like little plushies, which I thought was hilarious. Like I can't remember what Mary's were, but Paul's was definitely like a wine bottle because he was like a wine snob, which kind of like reminded me of like Sideways, like Paul Giamatti in Sideways, like later on. But yeah, so they were kind of like the two of them weren't the heroes of the movie. They were kind of like making fun of the fact that because the way that the movie is, the two of them are sort of like these really, really square, really sexually repressed people. They don't even seem, they're married, but they don't, and they seem like they're in love with each other, but they don't seem to have sex or anything like that. And they look down their noses at this degeneracy that's exposed because everybody else in LA in the kind of context of this movie is like a rapey. Yeah. It's just like a total like sexual assault, like a sexual predator. Yeah, like every single person, every like over the top, yeah. Right? Like and yeah, like jumping on her and like grabbing her, like the guy at the bank that's like giving her a loan and all this kind of stuff.
He's trying to get her to put outs to get the loan.
Right. So the thing about it is that you're not seeing things as they really are. Obviously, you're seeing things from their warped perspective. Like they feel like, oh, we're these pure 50s. People, but it's like, oh, the 80s, and it's just so degenerate. Everyone's a degenerate.
I guess.
And so they feel superior to them. But the funny thing about it, why this is a comedy, is that they feel justified in killing the swingers, because it's like, who's going to miss a few perverts or something like that. But they're totally fine with murder.
Yeah.
The funny thing about it, too, is that they will absolutely do all the fetishy stuff, like fake it. To lure the people in to kill them, where, you know, if they were just like more sex positive or something like that, they could just do that for real and make money.
Probably make more.
That's what I'm saying, but that's part of the joke is that, and they even go to the trouble of like dressing up in costumes and like pretending that they're doing the fetish stuff, and then they come in and like hit them with the cast iron skillet and like kill them. But it's like, you know, if they really wanted to kill them, why didn't they just kill them when they walk in the door? You know what I mean?
There's an element of truth in this because we've covered certain serial killer cases in the show where they were like this lately. Like the dudes down here in Florida, the fitness guy who abducted the other dude.
Yeah.
They could have made just money in the damn fitness industry instead of dressing up like ninjas and trying to hold dudes hostages and fucking... They didn't make any money doing that. Fucking... thinking they're criminal masterminds. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
From Pain and Gain?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are dumbass crooks.
Yeah.
That don't know what they're doing.
But I'm just saying that the whole point of them being like that in the movie was it was like making fun of them. It's like, you know, if you guys weren't so sexually repressed and if you didn't feel superior to these perverts, then you could just make money doing that like they do, like the dominatrix character in there did. But it's like instead you're killing people and they're fine with it. They're very matter of fact about killing these people because they see them as trash. Yeah. So they're kind of like making fun of the
They were doing the fetish thing pretty much anyway.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they could have just
the movie is kind of
for nothing.
Right. Well, and the movie is kind of like making fun of their hypocrisy like in that way. Just because it's like, oh, you'll do it like to be fake.
They even had to kill the dog. I guess they did kill the dog.
Yeah, they didn't show that, they talked about it. Yeah. But so I don't know if you guys haven't seen this movie.
One dude showed up with a big old Great Dane, and he wanted to see her have sex with a Great Dane.
I mean, that was the implication.
They never come out and say that, but
I'm pretty sure. And
when he shows up, he's a little person with this Great Dane.
Yeah.
And he's going, oh, he likes you already. That's the last time you see him. But she was saying, I guess we have to kill the dog too. You know, and he's like, yeah, we have to kill the dog. It's just.
But yeah, so like a lot of it was implication too. Yeah. Like, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that they implied that they wanted her to have sex with the dog. She didn't like actually have sex with the dog because they were killing the people.
They killed her first. Well, they're calling you.
No, it wasn't.
What was that?
It was just the phone, but it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, so that's the thing, and like I said, I kind of feel like that was the funniest thing about it to me was that because I think you missed the very beginning.
Yeah.
But there was kind of like a little bit of it almost seemed like one of those kind of voiceover like shorts where they're kind of like, you know, LA and it's so degenerate and like everybody's a pervert and like they showed people getting like snatched off the street and like raped in cars and all this other kind of stuff. So they're kind of setting up this unrealistic framework that's kind of like obviously outlandish and obviously ridiculous, but it's kind of like what some people were maybe thinking LA was really like. Like everything was just this cesspool of perversion and everything like that. So they took that like to its logical extreme and like made a joke about it. But they weren't like real over the top. The movie's ridiculous and it's outlandish and stuff like that, but I think it works because the two characters at the center of it are almost kind of like sympathetic. Like you kind of feel sorry for them, but they're just so, like I said, they're just so matter of fact about everything. Like they don't get super upset because how they get into the whole murder thing, they don't do it on purpose, at least initially. What ends up happening is that they live in this apartment building, and apparently like all the other apartments are being taken over by all these perverts that are moving in, like that have all these big orgies and swingers parties and stuff, and they're very scandalized by all of this because, like I said, they're very proper like kind of 50s people. So even they even have like a lot of kind of 50s sort of stuff like in their apartment, you know what I mean, like not real obviously, but a little bit. So what ends up happening is that their big dream is to open a restaurant, like a country restaurant. Their last name is Bland, by the way, so that should tell you something. Mary and Paul Bland, that's what their names are. So they want to open this country restaurant. I kind of felt like it was maybe something like Cracker Barrel. I kind of thought, I don't know if they had Cracker Barrel back then, but that was kind of the vibe that I got. So they want to do that. Now, Mary is a nurse, and she's just being constantly, like, sexually harassed by her patients, you know. So, again, because everybody in L.A. is apparently, like, a huge pervert. And the other guy, and Paul, like, works at a liquor store, but he's, again, like, a wine snob. So he's, like, ordering these really, really expensive bottles of wine, and, like, the owner is like, dude, like, we don't have the clientele, like, to buy these. What are you doing? So he gets fired. So now they're kind of like worried about, they're behind on their bills, and it's like, we're never going to open our restaurant now. And then it so happens that one of the swingers next door comes over to their apartment and essentially just like walks in and tries to like rape her. Cause like I said, everyone is just like a caricature. And so in self-defense, kind of like Paul just like whacks him over the head with a frying pan and kills him. And then they're just like, and I love his reaction to it too. He's like, he just keeps hitting the guy in the head with the pan. And she's like, stop, he's dead. It's like, I'm pretty sure he's dead. And the guy's just like, oh shit, that's all I need. And then they just stuff him in a bag and like just throw him down the garbage chute or whatever into the incinerator. And so after that, like they take all the money out of his wallet because he had like $600. And then they're like, yeah, these perverts, they always have all this money. And after, Mary gets turned down for a bank loan, and the bank loan officer's name is Mr. Leach, which again, very obvious. He is played by Buck Henry, who was actually he wrote the screenplay for The Graduate, actually. So he's won a couple Oscars and stuff like that for his screenplays. But yeah, so he was in it. So he straight up tries to rape her, and so she doesn't get the loan, obviously, because she's very prim and proper. But after that, they're just like, well, why don't we just kill these people because they have money, and it's like they're just trash and they're just perverts and nobody cares. So that's what they do. So they go and like talk to this dominatrix that was at this party that they went to, and she tells them, she's like, yeah, why don't you just run an ad in, I think it was called like the Hollywood Press or something like that, and have like all these people come over. So then like the whole middle part of the movie is them doing like all these ridiculous like fetish scenarios. Like there's this one guy that comes over that wants to dress up like a Nazi and like whip her and like try to get her to give them information. He's interrogating her, yeah. And then Ed Begley Jr. is in here. Like he wants her to dress up like a hippie so he can come there and like castigate her for protesting the Vietnam War and like beat the shit out of her. He like tries to rape her as well. And so, because like I said, it's just kind of like, so at some point, like Raoul, who is Robert Beltran's character, like I said, he starts out as like a locksmith, and he comes over to put new locks on their apartment because it's like, well, all these swingers keep like wandering into our apartment, and we have all these expensive wine bottles and shit like that. So he comes over to put new locks in, but it turns out that he's a crook, and his whole locksmith thing is just a cover so he can make keys for people's locks and like break into their shit. So he breaks into their house and sees the body, at which point they have to like make a deal with him. And he's like, hey, I know a guy that can get rid of these bodies for you if you split the money with me. And what they're ended up doing with the bodies is they're taking them to a dog food plant and grinding them up into dog food. So, as I said, it almost sounds like, and I was reading, like, Roger Ebert reviewed this movie, like, back when it came out in 1982, and he said it's almost like Motel Hell, I guess. He likes Motel Hell better. I like this one, but I like Motel Hell too. Both. I like them both, but I think I like this one better. There's just something about this one. It's obviously very low budget. I think it only cost $350,000 to make. And it kind of shows, like, it's obviously an independent movie, but there's something about the tone of this, like, it is just laugh out loud funny. And maybe that's just my sense of humor, I guess, but I don't know. I had forgotten how fucking hilarious this movie was. I was just, like, watching, because, like I said, I haven't seen it for probably, like, 30 years at least, and we were, like, watching it last night, and I was just busting out laughing, like, a bunch of times. It's just so, so funny. And I don't know, like, I was watching another review of it, and he said, well, if you changed a few things around, this could absolutely be a horror movie because of the subject matter. Yeah. It is very dark subject. It's not bloody or anything like that. Like, they don't show anybody getting...
It's not graphic. It's not even violent.
No, it's not. Like I said, that he kills people with the... I like how he kills people with the skillet, like, every time.
Yeah.
And, like, the funny thing, too, is, like, he goes out to, like, the grocery store or something, and she's just, like, very casually is like, can you get us another skillet? I'm just, like, I'm kind of squeamish about cooking food and, like, the thing that we used to kill all these people. Like, just very, very matter of fact. It's just, like, they're absolutely, like, not even worried that they're, like, murdering people and, like, just sending them to be, like, ground up in a dog food. And just, like, I think their lack of emotion about it and just the whole matter of fact, like, deadpan kind of thing about it is the funniest thing about it to me. For some reason. I just find that very, very funny. Mango says Buck Henry was in The Man Who Fell to Earth also. That's right, he was. Wow, it's been a while. Since we reviewed that, but yeah. Camp Guy says a Great Dane is one of the best jump scare dogs if you go over to someone's house and one jumps out around a corner. Yeah, they're huge. Where my mom used to live, they had a Great Dane, and it was as big as me. Like, when it stood up, like, it put its paws on my shoulders, and it was taller than I was.
Yeah, they tend to be chilled out dogs, though.
I would hope so. Yeah. Because, man, that's fucking
everyone
gigantic.
I've ever seen he was cool.
Yeah. Camp Guy said Buck Henry reminds me of Henry Gibson. Yeah, they do kind of look alike. Both from the same era. Yeah, Gibson was great in Nashville and Magnolia. Yeah, he was in The Burbs also. We were just talking about The Burbs the other day because the guy that voiced Gollum was also in The Burbs. But yeah, so I mean, if you like black comedies from the 1980s, this is a really, really good one. And I kind of feel like a lot of people don't really talk about it anymore, and that's kind of like a shame because this movie is so fucking funny. I mean, I find it funny. I don't know if everybody else would, but I don't know. Like, I've seen a lot of other reviews of it, and a lot of other people like seem to think it's like really, really funny.
It's a decent movie, especially for an independent film. It doesn't really feel like an independent film. It just feels like a low budget. Well, I guess a lot of the low budget movies we watched were kind of independent, so maybe it does.
Yeah, and like I said, this is exactly
comedy horror. Just.
Yeah, this is exactly what Paul Bartel wanted to make because, I mean, this was completely independently financed. And
it's decent. I'm going to give it to fucking Night of the Comet, though, in terms of a Beltran flick. I liked him better in that one. I think that's actually a better movie. Or at least, now I don't want to say that. It's more my tastes. Right. Something like that.
Whereas I feel like I like this one more. Yeah. I like both of them, but this one's more, because I really, really like black comedies. And I know that I think they're a more divisive genre altogether, maybe.
Kind of like Death Becomes Her and fucking Little Shop of Horrors. It's that type of movie. It's just not quite the same budget.
Yeah. This one gives me a little bit of a John. It gives me a little bit of a John Waters vibe as well.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I don't know though. I don't think I've ever seen a John Waters movie.
We discussed that before. I still can't believe that you've never seen a John Waters movie. I have to show you one at some point. You'd probably like. I imagine you'd probably like Crybaby.
Okay. Yeah,
that's a good one to start with.
That's got Tracy Lords and
Johnny Depp is in
it. Yeah, I remember when that came out.
I thought you had seen Hairspray. I mean, I know we watched the remake of Hairspray that had John Travolta in it in the divine role, but the original one's a lot better. You never saw Hairspray with Ricky Lake?
I don't think I ever saw Hairspray with John Travolta in it.
But no, we did because we watched it together.
Oh, I don't remember it.
I mean, the original's a lot better. The remake was all right, too, but I liked the original a lot better. But yeah, so, I mean, this movie, like I said, Paul Bartel wrote it. He also co-wrote it with Richard Blackburn, who is also in this movie. He actually plays James, the real estate agent that's, like, trying to get them the building that they want for the restaurant. And they said, again, to save money, not only do they use all the film short ends and everything, but pretty much everybody other than the principal characters in this is, like, members of the crew. Also, because they were just kind of like, oh, and the guy that plays, there's a great scene where Paul goes to a sex shop, like, to buy some stuff, and the guy behind the counter, it's just like this really hilarious, you have to see it. It's like this really hilarious scene where the guy's like trying to sell him all this stuff. And that guy, like behind the counter, they wanted Paul Rubens for that, you know, Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
And he either didn't want to do it or couldn't do it or something like that. But he's like, you know, use this other guy. And that guy would go on to be, I can't remember what his name is. He had like a fucking, what was his name? Paragon? I feel like his last name was Paragon or something like that. It was a word. And he ended up being on Pee-wee's Playhouse, like, later on. But that guy's fucking great. Like, the way he's just, like, trying to sell him, like, all this fucking sex toys and stuff. Because, like I said, the funniest thing about this movie to me is that, one, these two are just totally fine with murder. They kill a guy and they're just like, oh shit, well, whatever. And then they're like, oh, maybe we should do that again because we made a lot of money. And they're just like totally, they're not conflicted about it. They don't give a shit about it or anything like that.
And it's not a lot of money. It's a couple $100 a pop.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. Like when Raoul comes into the picture, which is kind of like, you know, they kind of have to bring him in because he's like, well, I could go to the cops. Well, they're like, well, you can't go to the cops because you broke into our house. So they're like, okay, we're kind of at an impasse. They're like, well, we should work together. And he knew a way to get rid of the bodies, like I said, because he knew a guy that could grind them up for dog food. And so they had to kind of like do this thing. But he was saying, it's like, yeah, you're doing all this work and you're just only making a few $100 per person because they were just taking whatever money they had out of the thing. But the thing they found out later was that Raoul was also taking the people's clothes in their cars and selling those and not telling Paul and Mary about it. So he was even getting more money on the side. So when they found out about that, then Paul Bartel tried to hire the dominatrix to do role play and like try to get rid of him because he had started like fucking the wife. You know what I mean? Because the wife and them started having an affair.
How's she gonna resist? Look at the difference between Beltran and Beltran's his middle name. His last name is Perez. But look at the difference between Perez and her supposed husband. All right. Well, even though that woman, if you ask me, man, she was probably what 6'1". She was tall, man.
Yeah, Mary Woronov is very tall. She's
6'1",
still alive as far as I know.
She's probably about 6 foot something.
She started out in Andy Warhol's stuff.
Yeah.
Very well known. And I think she was in Chelsea Girls, and she was in like a lot of his early films. Did some stuff with the Velvet Underground, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And she's been in a fuck ton of movies, man.
Yeah.
Fuck ton.
She's kind of cool. There's something about her. There's something about her. I mean, she kind of gave me that late 70s, early 80s porn star vibe, actually. That's not what she is, but in this movie, she gives off that vibe, which is funny because they're supposed to be uptight, but she kind of wears some fucking scandalous shit.
Well, that's like I said, that's kind of part of the humor.
Yeah,
is that she's supposed to be
you
like
can
this
see right
straight-laced
shit. Yeah,
yeah, she's supposed to be this real straight-laced, but it's like. Then they're like, oh, well, we'll do all this, like, fetishy shit. Like, she wears a Minnie Mouse costume at one point, like some kind of S&M stuff. And
well, when she goes to get their loan, she's wearing a dress you can see right through. You can see her underwear through it.
Yeah. That's, well, like I said, that's why part of the joke that they don't... It's not, like, super obvious, I guess, but it's like they're kind of pointing out the hypocrisy of them. That it's like, you know, they're talking about how superior they are and how straight-laced they are, and it's like, oh, everyone else is filthy degenerates, but then they do the same kind of shit, but like it's okay when they do it.
Cheating on her husband.
Well, that ended up too. And I think you missed too, like I think there was a scene like toward the beginning that you missed with one of the patients, because she was a nurse, like I said, that was like really like sexually harassing her like big time, and she like ended up, she was gonna give him an enema, but then like she did this whole switcheroo where she made like this old grizzled old dude like end up doing it like so that was a great scene too. But like this whole movie is just like full of great scenes. I don't know what it is. It's like there's just something about these kind of like early 80s indie flicks, and especially like dark comedies. I especially really like dark comedies. And this one, man, like I said, I hadn't seen it for so long, and watching it last night, I just forgot how fucking funny this was. I was just dying. It's fucking hilarious.
It's punching above its weight if you look at the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's a good flick.
And the fact that they made it for that little amount of money, and it made like okay money, like it made over $1 million.
It was good writing, good acting. The edit is pretty good. Score was good. I mean, it's a well crafted little movie.
Yeah.
And everybody in it was having a good time. At the hot tub party where they electrocute everybody, they're getting naked and shit. I think I saw a porn star in there from the 80s. You know,
what do he say? Swing on this fucker. So then he throws like the space heater in the hot tub with all the swingers.
They're jumping in. So they're
electrocutes all.
They're a bunch of fucking film people having fun making this.
Yeah,
movie.
It was Paul Bartel and all his friends.
Yeah.
And I think that was, so this was like exactly the movie that he wanted to make. It was very much a scene movie. It was like all his buddies.
So it kind of exudes kind of a weird positivity to it, that they're fucking with you. They're having fun.
Yeah.
Even though it's a dark subject, you know.
But it's
still
not
scary, and it's
not scary. It's
funny.
Not graphic or anything like that. Like, it goes to some dark places. Yeah, there's cannibalism in it.
Yeah.
There's people
murder,
people being ground up into dog food. Yeah, these two are like essentially serial killers.
They're serial killers. Yeah, they would have been considered serial. They were fucking right.
Yeah,
they had dudes that were doing this kind of shit. Remember the old fucking dude who worked at the damn pig slaughterhouse, the pig farm? And was killing
Willie
all the,
Picton.
Yeah, and killing all the hookers, and there were women that knew that he was doing that. That was some weird shit, man.
Yeah, it takes all kinds, I guess, doesn't it?
Yeah, feeding them to the pigs.
Yeah, this kind of like, so it's very, very dark subject matter, but it's treated very deftly.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's weird. It almost has like a little bit, almost like a little bit of a punk rock, like, kind of sensibility to it. You know what I mean? I don't know.
New wave.
Yeah, that kind of
New
thing.
wave scenesters and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I said, everybody, it's just hilarious.
You could tell they were hanging out at the club.
Right. And it's hilarious to me too.
House parties.
The way they portray LA in this movie, because it's like they're portraying it subjectively, like through the eyes of the main characters who are like super uptight.
Yeah, and they're talking about the fetish scene, which,
right?
And the way it's handled, they know about the fetish scene.
Yeah.
So they got friends in it, you know, or they're in it, you know, just so.
I love that the dominatrix character, like when they go to her house, like to ask her for advice, like how do we, you know, they didn't say like how do we lure people there to murder them, but she's like, you know, we want to get into this, like how do we do it? And so they go to her house, and she's just like, even though she's like this big dominatrix and she's always like, you know, whipping people and shit like that, but they just show her as like a completely normal, like suburban mom. She's got like her little kid in the high chair, and she's cutting up some food for him.
If you've been a listener for a long time.
It's like so funny.
If you've been a listener for a long time, me and Jenny's got all kinds of friends. My ex-girlfriend and shit, they're all into that shit. They're always inviting us. Lately, they've been inviting us to go to damn secrets. And, and then like having parties at Brian and Becky's house, and they're big into that fetish scene and shit, and having girlfriends living with them and everything. And then they had a teenage daughter who's just looking at them like, you guys are fucked up.
Well, yeah, but
it's kind of like from Absolutely Fabulous, you know what I mean? Where they're the daughter. Remember the daughter?
Yeah, Saffron.
From Saffron.
Saffy.
Yeah. It's fucking funny.
I love that fucking show.
Yeah.
And she was just like horrified that her mom and her mom's best friend are just like complete degenerate drunks.
Yeah, right. Yeah. She wasn't the girl we're really talking about, the other daughter. She wasn't a little kid. She was 18.
Yeah, she wasn't a kid.
She was a kid.
She was like a
She just
young adult.
She was just embarrassed by her parents.
But everybody is.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And that's what I think that's what's kind of so funny to me is that because we know a lot of people that are into this kind of stuff and it's like they have grown kids and it's always funny to me like how the kids are just like, ew, gross. That's because it's always gross when it's your parents doing it.
Like,
you know what I mean? Even if I was into like some particular shit and like my parents were doing it, you'd be like, ew, you know what I mean? Because that's just kind of how stuff works, I guess. But yeah, so this movie, like I said, it did make pretty decent money, got pretty decent critical thing. It was kind of like a big midnight movie. Like I said, I remember like in the 80s, like they'd always do like little showings of it and stuff. They did actually do a stage musical adaptation of it in the early 1990s. And they were going to do, Paul Bartel, like I said, he passed away, but they were actually going to do a sequel in which somebody found out about what they were doing because, spoiler alert, they get away with it. Like there's no consequences. They don't get caught.
Which I thought that was kind of unique.
I know. I was just like, they show them at the end going like, hey, we got our restaurant. They got the $25,000 or whatever it was they needed to buy it. And it was just like, I thought that was like really funny.
It's funny that you said they made a show about it because I was thinking at the time I was watching it, it would have been pretty good to see that with Rocky Horror Picture Show and something like Sweeney Todd is in that.
How fun would that have been? You could do kind of like a cannibalism.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of feel like this would be so cool. Like if there's like some indie theater out there like around here that wants to do that, you could do like we'll do Night of Cannibalism, and you could have this movie. This only has a little bit of cannibalism. It's mostly like
they just refer to it.
Yeah, they don't show it or anything. Now, Rocky Horror does have some cannibalism in it too because they eat Eddie, you know, the Meatloaf character.
Yeah.
So then you could do like Motel Hell. You could do like all the like fun cannibalism movies. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the dark comedies about cannibalism. Oh, you could even show Parents from 1989. That would be another good one. So you could do it, which I reviewed. I don't think you've seen it though. But yeah, that would be another good because that's another black comedy like about cannibalism. But they were gonna do a sequel to this movie, and it was gonna be called Bland Ambition because that was their last name.
Oh yeah,
Paul and Mary Bland. So it was gonna be called Bland Ambition. And it's like, well, one of the funny things. So their last name is Bland, and I'm pretty sure that at one point, because they were gonna open this restaurant, at one point he said to her, like they were gonna call it what enchiladas, bland enchiladas. That's what they were gonna call them. She's like, that's my specialty. So they were gonna put that on the menu, the bland enchiladas. And I can't remember what else because they were coming up with some I can't remember what the first name for the restaurant they had was because after that they kind of referred to it as like, oh, it'll just be Paul and Mary's Country Kitchen or something like that. But they had another name before that, but it was something else with bland in it, which I thought was like really funny. And they were just like, and they talked about it like it was normal. Like people wouldn't be like, well, maybe we shouldn't name the restaurant like something with bland in it because that was their last name. But it's like, I thought that was funny that they didn't comment on it. But as like everything about this movie is like hilarious. Like I don't know why this movie's so funny to me, but everything about it is funny to me. And I had forgotten how fucking funny it was, but I was just like laughing through the whole fucking thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Tammy says, Absolutely Fabulous is one of my all-time favorite shows. Yeah, mine too. Honestly, I don't like a lot of comedy, but when I like comedy, it tends to be black comedy or it tends to be like British comedy, which I don't know. Something about that is like much funnier to me than like American comedy. So yeah, like Absolutely Fabulous. I love like a lot of old British comedies, like the young ones and the comic strip, which was more like surreal. You know, I love like Eddie Izzard. I love like all that kind of stuff. I also liked Little Britain, although I only saw, I don't know how many seasons. I know they call it series over there, but I don't know how many seasons of that there was, but I did see like the first couple seasons, and I thought those were like super funny because that seemed like it had like a Young Ones kind of vibe to it because it was just like it was kind of like the Greasy Strangler a little bit in a little way where it was just kind of like making fun of like these gross ass people, you know what I mean? But yeah, I liked that as well. But I haven't seen a lot of. We have BritBox, and I always kind of feel like, oh, I should go in there and like check out some new stuff because I've heard there's some new things that are good. And everybody keeps recommending Peaky Blinders also, and maybe we should get around to watching that one of these days. But I've had a lot of people recommend that. But yeah, so if you have HBO Max and you like 80s movies and you like dark comedies, then you should totally watch this because this is a great movie. And I feel like a lot of people don't talk about it. It's short. It's only like 83 minutes. And I don't know. I just laughed the whole fucking way through it. Everything about this movie is fucking funny to me, and I don't know what else to tell you, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah. So, you have anything else you would like to add?
No, I think we've covered it at least twice.
All right, bitch.
Talking in circles. Okay.
Well, we're not. Well, just because you're just sitting there not saying anything, so
I've
just
said everything I can say about it. I've said everything I can say about it.
Okay.
It's a decent movie. It's good.
Richard Brown said, "Have you seen Blood-Sucking Freaks?" I have, but it was a while ago. I don't think we ever reviewed it, though, did we?
Never heard of it.
I don't remember if we reviewed it, but I have seen it, like, a few years ago. Let me see. Mango said Parents with Randy Quaid is very good. Yeah, I reviewed Parents probably a year ago. Maybe not even that long ago. Like, look at it. It's on my Flickers of Fear series. I did that. Because that's another movie that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about anymore, even though it's, like, really, really funny. It's not... It's slightly different than it's kind of like a similar vibe to this one, I guess. Like, I think Eating Raoul is more, like, overtly funny, whereas Parents is more sinister, and the humor isn't quite as overt. But it's kind of in the same ballpark, I feel like. Maybe. You know what I mean?
I've never seen it.
Camp Guy said, is this the one with the scene at the hot tub?
Yeah.
Yeah, where he throws the thing in.
Yeah.
Parents is actually set in, like, an idealized 1950s, and it's kind of like Leave It to Beaver if the parents were cannibals. And, like, it's from their kid's point of view, and he's like, oh my god, my parents are cannibals. You know what I mean? But it's almost like a horror movie. Like, it's kind of creepy. This one's not creepy. This one's just pretty overtly a comedy, even though, like, the subject matter is dark. That one is kind of more in a gray area. You know what I mean? Because it's not as overtly funny, and it also has, like, creepy shit in it, too. Yeah, they throw a space heater into the hot tub, and it kills all the... Because at this swingers party, you know, all the naked people is like, everybody has to get into the hot tub, so they all get into the hot tub, and, like, he's like... And he throws the heater in there, electrocutes everybody. But yeah. All right, so we are going to wrap it up. Now, tomorrow night is our main show. And Paul... And I said Paul because I was looking at the notes because of Paul Bartel. But Tom will be very excited to know that
what is it?
We're doing another UFO show.
Are we?
We're doing the Belgian Wave.
Oh yeah, okay. Belgian Wave.
So
yeah, I'm well versed in it.
So what we might do this evening is because Unsolved Mysteries did a show
Belgian
featuring
Wave.
that.
You want to see it again?
And we can watch it. It's on Tubi because I already looked. It's season 4, episode 12.
Yeah, I've seen it many times. I love it.
I've seen it too.
I love that one.
But
but that'd be a good refresher course.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of good shit in that.
So that should be a fun show.
Yeah,
I feel like.
that happened. I know the Belgian Wave happened.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I believe they did. Well, shit, man, the Air Force the Air Force did fly up. We're going to talk about it the other day. There's a possibility it could have been some false radar returns, but
yeah,
because they were using a radar that sometimes malfunctioned. But nah, the cops, the gendarmerie saw all kinds of weird shit. I believe they saw it.
Trey just got here and said, "Shit, I'm late."
It's all right, you missed it,
damn
dude.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least you can go back and watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a great fucking movie. Go watch it. Like I said, it's on HBO Max. And tomorrow night, we're doing a show about the Belgian UFO wave.
Yeah.
So everybody will be excited about that.
Yeah.
Jeff Yarrett said, wow, Belgian wave, and Tom Perks right up. Yeah, I figured.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So we will see you guys again tomorrow night. Thanks very much for dropping by for the discussion. Good night.